is up, everyone? Tyler and Andrew here. And as we were literally sitting down to record Ball Up Top, your weekly women's basketball podcast from No Cap Space, we got a little notification.
Bow, bow, bow. Breaking news.
Big vote from ESPN. Michael M.A. Vopel came through with DeWanna Bonner heading to Phoenix. I think this was relatively assumed, and it turned out to be a safe assumption. It simply made the most sense across the board, in terms of, obviously, for DeWanna Bonner reuniting with Alyssa Thomas, her partner, but also for Phoenix, who doesn't have to cut anybody to make this happen. They can simply sign DeWanna Bonner. And at this point in the season, that's not an opportunity that comes along very often for teams to be able to add a player like DeWanna Bonner. Obviously had her struggles in Indiana, but we know the player and the history of what DeWanna Bonner can contribute in terms of winning a championship. So Andrew, I'm gonna lob it over to you. It's official, DB to Phoenix. What are the vibe checks?
It's risky, I think, mostly because Phoenix has a really good thing working right now, and I am a little ambivalent on the idea of fixing what isn't broken. There is an argument to be made that even at 37, DeWanna Bonner is better than anything you're going to be able to get on the free agent market, on hardship contract market. And if you have an opportunity to add a player of caliber, you do, right? This league has shown us that you need depth. And at the very worst, you add another complementary piece when the top two teams, arguably the top three when they are fully healthy in the Liberty, and then the other two being, the Lynx. And for my money, I think the Storm are deep. They are deep teams, especially in the front court. And so you need a player of DeWanna Bonner's caliber, especially when you are still a little bit undersized all along the perimeter. One of the things with DeWanna Bonner that is great, as we've seen dating back to her Connecticut Sundays, is that she can really defend 1 through 4 and sometimes 1 through 5, depending on if it's like a lankier center. But she is able to cover a variety of positions while also still fitting into that like 2-3 spot on the floor offensively. So I like it in the sense that it feels like you're going to get a better version of DeWanna Bonner here, right? You're going to get a refreshed and rejuvenated version, a mentally okay version, and one that probably is more willing to give you a little bit more because, these players are online. They hear the chatter. I'm sure DeWanna Bonner has seen her fair share of you need to retire in her mentions or her DMs over the last few weeks. And if you're a competitor of DeWanna Bonner's level, and for those that, might not be aware that have just tuned in the last year or two, first of all, welcome. But also, DeWanna Bonner has been one hell of a player for a very, very long time. She's returning to Phoenix, mind you. This is her second stint with the team. She won a WNBA championship with them. She's averaged 20 points a game with them. And I would not be shocked if a 37-year-old player that is on the edge of retirement or was at least considering it in Indiana may come back and be like, all right, bet. I absolutely have something left in the tank here. The issue that I have, Tyler, is you are in a position where you are running the risk of messing up your flow. You obviously, I think this helps fill the Lexi Held gap because we still don't know what her timetable is dealing with the collapsed lung. But, you still have the likes of Khadija Laksa and Catherine Westbeld and all of these sort of journeywomen rotational players that have sort of made like this cast of misfits for Phoenix that have managed to be a top 4 unit in the WNBA. DeWanna Bonner, I think, can be an upgrade in some respects there, but I'm going to bank on the idea that a lot of these players are okay playing in the sandbox just off the basis of what their careers have been. So there's a risk inherent here, but I like it more than I dislike it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I mean, as you mentioned, a return to Phoenix from 2009 to 2019, she's in Phoenix, so the majority of her career was spent there. Obviously won a championship there. To me, I think it's a great point that like this Phoenix team, I don't know what the vibe is going to be from DeWanna Bonner in the sense of like we kind of had the reports of like she expected to be a starter and like that was like the expectation and everything. And again, it always seemed a little bit weird because we had seen her come off the bench before. Like, like this has been a thing that has happened before. And so like it not like an extended amount, but like it's been a thing that's happened before where like it didn't feel like a kicking up a stinker would be the conclusion of that. If you're coming off the bench, DeWanna Bonner is going to like react. That's never a vibe I've gotten from DB. And so like I don't know. Obviously, we don't have really much more information about what's happened in Indiana, but to me, you're coming to a roster that is filled with players that frankly, it's all the rookie years, like from all different ways, but like the majority of these players, it's their first year. I can't imagine like being incredibly upset by adding DeWanna Bonner like to what you already have here, just from like out of respect for DeWanna Bonner factor. But I do think that it's a reasonable thing to be like, okay, like Phoenix, you have been overperforming. So like this is the thing where it's like to me, if you get DeWanna Bonner last season, I think this is what's very interesting to me about this edition. Last season averaged 15 points, 6 rebounds over a steal a game.
She was not a slouch last year.
Nor
has she been the past couple of years. She's actually, her career, I'd argue, is aged the best out of anybody's, at 37 years old.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, like, to me, it's like there was nothing from a DeWanna Bonner individual perspective. There was no injury. Obviously, the time catches up to everyone. But to have that steep of a fall off, statistically speaking, that what we saw in Indiana doesn't add up to me in terms of like DeWanna Bonner, individual, the player. It feels much more like a situational thing, and that's not placing blame anywhere, but just whatever was happening, that feels more the reason why you see the drop than it is anything to do with DeWanna Bonner. So in that way, when I'm thinking about it in that way, and I'm like, you don't even have to get up to 15 points again. Like that's not even what's required here. But if you get up to 10, and it's an efficient 10, that's a very good player you are adding into this roster, and a player that can fit. Like it, I say that because it feels weird saying it now because I said the same things with Indiana. DeWanna Bonner can fit on just about any roster because she is incredibly versatile when it comes to playing at the 4, playing on the perimeter. Obviously, that didn't happen in Indiana, right? In terms of like just being able to kind of plug and play. Phoenix, to me, I feel the same way though, in the terms of like being able to kind of whatever you need on a given night from DeWanna Bonner, to a point she can play that role. And again, it's never going to be option number 1 scorer. But in terms of like the championship margins, DeWanna Bonner covers a lot of that and leveling up this Phoenix Mercury team. If it's last year DeWanna Bonner. And that is obviously the big major if. But in terms of finding a place that she's comfortable, both in organizational speaking and with Alyssa Thomas, plus you have obviously all the facilities and everything that players have raved about. It seems like the players really get along with the coaching staff as well. Like this just seems like if we're going to get DeWanna Bonner, quote unquote, back, there's not a better situation in the WNBA for it to happen than right now in Phoenix for her as an individual and as a player. So I'm excited cautiously because obviously we've seen what we've seen so far of this season. But that to me feels like a potential level up in terms of the tiers for Phoenix. I don't think they're going to get to New York / Minnesota level, and New York is having their own struggles right now. But if they're going to, this is the type of move that raises your tier up, just up into that contender status to me.
Totally. And it really depends on, like you said, whether or not she is willing to accept a potential bench role, because realistically speaking, the best place I see her on this team is actually as the 6th woman. Because to me, Satou Sabally is kind of the younger comp for her. Like Satou is 6'4". Satou can shoot the 3. She can score at all 3 levels. She's a switchable defender. She's a pesky-ass defender, the same way DeWanna Bonner is. And could you theoretically put the 2 of them on the court together? Yes, but I feel like they occupy a lot of the same space if you were to give them both starter-level minutes. And I do think there is an interesting wrinkle here that you can give where, if AT is, operating with DB and you have like a Satou Copper combo that is able to kind of run in staggered minutes off of like this duo and this duo. Obviously AT is going to play, 35 plus minutes a game, but I think there is the best way to utilize her at least in my opinion, is by having her be a bench player here.
Mhm.
Will she be good with that after a couple years in Connecticut? Like, that's a good question. And I
Mhm.
think as we get more information about what happened in Indiana, we'll have a better idea of how amenable she is to that. Because here's the thing, and I want everyone to understand this at home too, because when you cover teams enough and you cover it from like an insider perspective enough, you know that no two situations are made the same when it comes to this kind of thing. Like it very easily could have been DeWanna Bonner was promised a role and she wanted them to adhere to the role, or they didn't promise her a role and the expectation was that she does come off the bench, but maybe she herself felt like she needed to do more within this organization. Like, people's reasons for moving in different situations matter. And I think broad brushing stuff is not the best thing to do, because I mean, like, who among us has been in a work situation that didn't jive with us, right? Like, there's so many scenarios and situations in which that happens in a day-to-day life. And I understand that being a professional athlete, it's obviously a different set of rules that they play by, but fit still can matter. Like, your environment can still matter. Who's around you, how far you are from home, how far you are from your loved ones, all of that stuff can still matter and not be the reason that it happens, but it can contribute to your bad behavior, somebody else's bad behavior, promises unkept, issues with people in the locker room. Like, all of those things can mash, because sometimes just compatibility looks like it's there on the surface and isn't, right? And anytime these moves are made, whether it's coaches or players, I look at what it is on paper, because on paper, that's what we have. Those are the takes we give, is the stuff that we see, and then we go back and reassess. Obviously, to your point, like, it didn't work out in Indiana. Do I think it can work out in Phoenix? It's provided that she is able to be more amenable to things than it seemed that she was in Indiana. And if it really was just a one bad fit blip for both sides in a career that's been pretty uncontroversial since she got into the
Mhm.
WNBA, then we say, okay, bad fit's bad fit, and we move. It doesn't mean anything about her. It doesn't mean anything about the Fever or the fan base or whatever else, Christine Brennan alleges in her, book. But like,
Goodness.
I do think, yeah, don't even get me started.
Yeah.
But I think that it sometimes can be as easy as saying, you know what, you didn't fit with us, we didn't fit with you. That's okay. Good luck, move on. And that, frankly, that might be it, because you know what? I'm watching the Fever play, and I know that Caitlin Clark is coming back, and ultimately this might benefit the Fever too.
Yeah.
Sure, it might suck listening to bad faith people say, well, this is indicative of what Indiana's culture is and their welcoming nature, towards certain players. But realistically speaking, if you're a fan of Indiana or you're a fan of Caitlin Clark, and DeWanna Bonner goes to Phoenix and plays better, and Phoenix plays better, and because she left, you are now playing better and you now have a better shot at being a finals contender, like, I think most fans would take that trade. It doesn't need to be I succeed and you fail. It can be a situation where both parties just shake hands, move on, and everyone succeeds afterwards, and that's what it is. And I'm hoping that's the case here.
Yeah. No, I'm with you again. I'm very intrigued just to see what version of DeWanna Bonner we get here. But that's up to that's what comes next. So, but for now, I think intrigued is the word, and seeing a potential road to success is it's certainly there. Will they walk it? That is the question that needs to be answered. But make sure you guys stay tapped in here with No Cat Space here on the YouTube and NoCatSpaceWBB.com, because literally right now, as this is uploading, as you're watching this, we are probably recording Ball Up Top. So that is dropping tomorrow as you're watching this on Monday night. So we're going to be talking about the All-Stars. We're going to talk about the All-Star game. We're going to talk AmeriCup, the biggest surprise of the year. We got plenty of topics to hit on for Ball Up Top. So make sure you're tapped in on NoCatSpaceWBB.com, your favorite podcast platform, and here on YouTube. All the links down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.